Hello everyone, welcome back to this video series on clinical SAS SDTM programming. In this video, we will see how to derive RFXSTDTC and RFXENDTC in SDTM demographics dataset. So let us go to the background. So we know that SDTM.DM domain is used to capture some important demographic related variables and certain key date variables for each subject. And RFXSTDTC and RFXENDTC are two such date variables which are captured or which are derived in SDTM-DM domain. So they are respectively used to capture the date of first study treatment and also date of last study treatment, which is RFXSTDTC is used to capture the date time of first study treatment, and RFXENDTC is used to store the date of last study treatment for each subject. These variables will generally be used in downstream ADAM programming to identify the treatment start and end dates and also to calculate treatment duration. These variables will be derived using drug administration related raw data sets. So what do we learn in this lesson? So in this lesson, we will see how to derive RFXSTDTC and RFXENDTC. So the input datasets that we will be using for this lesson are demog dataset and IP admin dataset. Demog dataset contains a list of all subjects who participated in the study, and IP admin dataset contains the dosing dates, the box number used at each visit. So though we will not need box number in this example. Now let us take a look at the structure of the input datasets that we will be using. So this is our demog dataset, which contains the list of all subjects who participated in the studies, including some other raw demographic related variables collected in the raw data. And the second dataset that will be used as input is our IP admin dataset. It contains a record for each subject for each dosing date. So and also the IP quantity administered. So now let us move to the specification and see how we are being asked to derive RFXSTDTC and RFXENDTC. So for RFXSTDTC, it says populate using the earliest ipadmin.ipstdt underscore raw, where IP quantity raw greater than 0. And for RFXENDTC, we are being asked to populate using the latest ipadmin ipstdt raw, where IP quantity raw is greater than 0. So let us go back to the input data sets one more time and then see if we have all the required variables. So we have ipstdt raw and IP quantity raw. So this variable is a character variable and the date is present in date11 format but in a character variable. So we need to use this date and extract the earliest and latest date for each subject and populate the RFXSTDTC and RFXENDTC. As both these DTC variables are expected to be in ISO 8601 format, we need to convert this date value to ISO 8601 format when deriving those. So let us now go to the form output and then try to manually identify the RFXSTDTC and RFXENDTC for a couple of subjects. So let's go to IP admin dataset one. So the first subject who has a record in exposure is 1004. So let us take a look at the dates available. So the first record is 5th Jan, second is 12th Jan, third 18 Jan, and the last record for subject 1004 has a date of 25th Jan. Of all these dates, so we are being asked to use the earliest date to populate RFXSTDTC. So this is 5th Jan 2010. So RFXSTDTC for subject 1004 will be 5th Jan 2010. So let us try to populate it. So subject 1004 RFXSTDTC. So 5th Jan 2010. So 01 for January and 05 is the date. So now similarly let us populate the RFXENDTC for this subject. So we were asked to use the latest date for populating the RFXENDTC. So and one more thing we were asked to check is whether IP quantity raw is greater than 0. So in all the records of subject 1004 IP quantity raw is greater than 0, so we can safely use only the dates. So 25th Jan is the latest date available across all 4 records. So RFXENDTC for the subject 1004 will become 25th Jan. So ISO notation for 25th Jan is 2010-01 for Jan and 25 for the day component. So let us try to identify it for one more subject before we see the programming. So let us take a look at the subject 1005. So this subject has 3 rows. So if you see for 5th Feb, 12th Feb and 19th Feb, but if you take a look at the 19th Feb row, so the quantity administered is registered or collected as 0. So we cannot consider this record neither for RFXSTDTC or RFXENDTC. So, so the two records which become eligible are the 5th Feb record and 12th Feb record. So the 5th Feb and 12th Feb, the earliest value is 5th Feb. So RFXSTDTC for subject 1005 will be 5th Feb. So let us try to populate it. So 1005 RFXSTDTC in ISO notation is 2010 as the month is Feb. So we need to put 02 and the date was 5th. So let us now go back and see what was the latest date available with IP quantity raw greater than 0. So 5th and 12th, only 2 records. So 12th Feb will become the latest state of where the IP quantity is raw is greater than 0. So RFXE and DTC for this subject would become 12th Feb. So let us try to populate it in ISO notation. 2010 Feb is 02 and date was 12th Feb. So we populate RFXE and DTC or identify the RFXE and DTC this way. And now let us see the programming approach on how we derive RFXSTDTC and RFXENDTC. So the first step is to create a numeric version of administration date to sort the records based on dose date, and we are also subsetting the records for non-zero dose because for this, as per the specification, we need to consider only the rows where IP quantity raw is greater than 0. And then we are also creating exposure date in ISO 8601 format. So here we have created a variable called IPSTDT by reading IPSTDT raw using an in format of date 11 using input function and storing it in a variable IPSTDT. So as we are converting character to numeric date, the IPSTDT will store it as the date value as the number of days from 1st Jan 1960 for whatever date value we have on a particular record. And after that we are using that numeric date and converting it back to a character format which is in YYMMDD 10 dot. So we know that when the date when only date is collected and time is not collected, YYMMDD 10 dot is equivalent to ISO 8601 format because in both the formats we have 4-digit year followed by a hyphen followed by a 2-character month followed by a 2-digit day. So we are converting that date to ISO 8601 notation here using this put function and YYMMDD 10 dot format. And then here we are subsetting only the records where IP quantity raw is greater than 0. So here IP quantity raw in the input data set was a character variable. So I am converting it into numeric and then checking whether that particular value is greater than 0 or not. And then we are sorting the records based on the subject and date, which is IP administration start date, because we need to pick the earliest record for RFXSTDTC and latest record for RFXENDTC. So we are making use of the ability of the data step to create more than one data set within a single data step to create or subset one record, the earliest record for RFXSTDTC and the latest record for RFXENDTC. So here we have sorted the records based on subject level information and the exposure start date. So with this level of sorting, the earliest record or the earliest date would come on top within each subject and the latest record would come at the end within that subject. So in IPadmin 02, we are using in a set statement or the data step in the next step, and then we are using this by statement to create this first dot and last dot variables, because we will not be able to create first dot and last dot variables if we do not specify the by statement. So here we have specified the same by variables which we have used for sorting our input data set. And then here what we are trying to do here is the first record of each subject is being output to a data set called RFXSTDTC. So, and the last record for each subject is being output to a data set called RFXENDTC. So we will have the earliest records which is equivalent to our RFXSTDTC outputted to the RFXSTDTC dataset, and the latest records which contain our date value which is corresponds to the RFXENDTC will be present in RFXENDTC dataset. So in both the cases we are converting this ISO 8601 notation date variable into the relevant name in RFXSTDTC. So the IPSTDT variable will have a value of which corresponds to RFXSTDT. So we are renaming that variable to RFXSTDTC. And the RFXENDTC dataset, the value present in the last record which is being stored in RFXENDTC dataset is being renamed to RFXENDTC. And then what we are doing in the next step is to merge RFXSTDTC dataset and RFXENDTC dataset to our base demographics dataset, so that we'll have both RFXSTDTC and RFXENDTC will be populated. So now let us go back and see how the input data intermediate datasets looks like. So in IP admin 01, so we have created a numeric version of IP STDT raw, and we have converted it to ISO 8601 notation, and we have also subsetted the rows which had IP quantity greater than raw. So we have seen earlier that there was a record for subject 1005 with 0 dose. So as those record was not supposed to be uh, uh, considered while deriving RFXSTDTC or of RFXENDTC, so we have removed that dataset and that record in this dataset. And then the next thing that we have done is we have sorted the records based on study ID and patient number and IPSTDT, so that the record which has the lowest date comes on top and the record with the highest date comes at the end within each subject. And then we have used a data step to create two data sets, RFXSTDTC and RFXENDTC, within a single data step. So in the RFXSTDTC, so we have outputted the earliest records to this dataset, and the latest records were outputted to RFXENDTC. So let us now take a look at the two values which we have derived manually. We have seen how to manually identify things. For subject 1005, 1004 it was 5th Jan, so this is coming properly, and for 1005 it was 5th Feb, so this is also coming properly. And then for RFXENDTC for 1004 it was 25th Jan, so this is coming again correctly. And then 1005, so it was 12th Feb. So though there was a record in IP administration on 19th Feb, but the quantity administered was 0, so this was not supposed to be considered for RFXENDTC. So it is 12th Feb is the last date of exposure to the treatment. So we are getting this value correctly. And after that we have merged our RFXSTDTC and RFXENDTC datasets to our demographics dataset and created a dataset named DM01. So we have all both RFXSTDTC and RFXENDTC populated for the subject who took at least one dose. So this is how we can derive RFXSTDTC and RFXENDTC in demographics dataset. So thank you for watching and keep learning.